Hi, it's Mrs. Wolbrin. We're here with your, Lesson 14, Section 6 podcast.
That's right, you guys. Meow. It's Mrs. Klein.
I love that.
Oh, whatever. I got to be different.
Okay, so just a reminder, Lesson 14, Andrew Jackson and the Growth of American Democracy.
Yep.
The guiding question has not changed.
Nope, not at all.
How well
did President Andrew Jackson promote democracy? And this is all about Section 6.
Yeah.
All right. That has to do with Andrew Jackson's policy toward Native Americans.
Yeah. So you guys be thinking about that. Is he promoting democracy with these policies?
Okay.
And same vocabulary from our last podcast. We have civil servant, Jacksonian democracy, secede, spoils system, trail of tears, and tariff.
All right, you guys. So Native Americans in the Southeast, and then also something you'll learn a little bit about the Cherokee Nation. So since the 1600s, white settlers had pushed Native Americans westward as they took more and more of their land. Some whites believed that moving Native Americans west was the only way to avoid conflict over land. In the 1820s, many Native Americans still lived east of the Mississippi River. The major tribes included the Cherokee, Chickasaw, Choctaw, Creek, and Seminole. Whites called these tribes the 5 civilized tribes because they had adopted many parts of white culture.
The Cherokees, more than any other Native American people, had adopted white ways of living. They owned farms and cattle ranches. A brilliant Cherokee named Sequoyah invented a writing system for the Cherokee language. The Cherokees also published their own newspaper. In 1827, the Cherokees drew up a constitution that was based on the U.S. Constitution and founded the Cherokee Nation.
All right. In 1828, however, gold was found on Cherokee land in Georgia, and soon settlers and miners wanted the land. The federal government responded to white demands by planning to remove all Native Americans from the Southeast.
Yeah. So we're going to talk about Jackson's removal policy. President Jackson strongly supported a policy of moving Native Americans west of the Mississippi River. He believed that the government had the power to tell Native Americans where they could live. He also believed that Native Americans should accept white culture or be moved to Western territories. Jackson did not think that they could have their own governments within the borders of the United States.
So after gold was discovered in the Southeast, Southern states passed laws that gave whites the right to take Native Americans' land. Jackson supported these laws. He asked Congress to pass a law that would force Native Americans to move west or to submit to state laws. Many Americans opposed this kind of law, but after much debate, Congress passed the Indian Removal Act in 1830. It said that Native Americans must relocate west of the Mississippi River.
So, the Trail of Tears. Many Native Americans saw no other choice but to move west to the Indian Territory. This was an area that covered what is now Oklahoma and parts of Kansas and Nebraska. Beginning in 1831, the Choctaws and the southeastern tribes were relocated to Indian Territory.
You guys think for just a second about how different that territory is. People living in the Southeast where there's lush forests and it's really moist and there's, there are Everglades and, whatever, plenty of water and humidity and different kinds of things. And then you're forced to a place like Oklahoma or Nebraska, which are nothing but plains. Yeah. So very different kind of lifestyle when you're moving to the west of the Mississippi River.
And you guys, not to interrupt you, I'm just thinking, you could be drawing comparisons to the Holocaust.
Right? Oh, there you go. Absolutely.
They were totally removed from their homes, and it's different, but there are some similarities.
Yep. You don't get to decide where you live. No. We're going to decide for you.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. The Cherokees, however, fought the Indian Removal Act in court. They asked the Supreme Court to protect their land from being seized by Georgia. The Supreme Court struck down the Indian Removal Act. It said that the Cherokees were wards of the United States government. Only the federal government, not the states, could make laws governing the Cherokees. The ruling meant that Georgia laws did not apply to the Cherokee Nation.
Jackson refused to obey the court's ruling. In 1838, federal troops were used to force the Cherokees to move from Georgia to the Indian Territory. A quarter of the Cherokees died in this journey, known as the Trail of Tears.
Yeah, and it's the second time, at least we know, that Jackson has said there was a court decision. Whatever, I'm not going to pay attention to it. So This is what we're going to do. We're forcing you, all right, to move.
And he was, we talked about this in class, he was not a rule follower. it was his way,
or the highway.
no matter what.
Yeah, there you go. All right. So there were, however, you guys, some Native American resistance movements. Okay, not all Cherokees moved west in 1838. An old Cherokee farmer named Solly and his family fought the soldiers. Solly, I think maybe Tassali, and his family fled to the Smoky Mountains in North Carolina, where they found other Cherokees who remained behind. The U.S. Army told Solly that if he and his sons would surrender, the other Cherokees could stay. They surrendered, and the others were able to remain in their homeland.
And they surrendered and they killed them.
They killed them, exactly.
Yeah. Sorry. Okay. In 1835, the Seminoles refused to leave Florida. This led to the Second Seminole War. Osceola was an important leader in the war. He and his followers defeated the U.S. Army in many battles. In 1837, a truce was called. However, when Osceola arrived for peace talks, he was captured. He later died in prison. The Seminoles continued to fight until forced to end the war in 1842.
Okay, all right. Other tribes also fought relocation to the Indian Territory. In 1832, a Sauk chief named Black Hawk led a band of Sauk and Fox back to lands in Illinois that they had been forced to leave. In the Black Hawk War, the U.S. Army crushed that uprising.
Yeah. So it's all very, very sad.
Yeah. So remember again, like how democratic was Andrew Jackson. Okay, all right.
Yeah.
And were his policies during this particular point in time.
Exactly. Okay, guys. Thanks for listening.
All right. Love you lots.